Aaron Rodgers had less than 2 minutes left, no margin for error, and an entire season on the line. The Steelers were trailing, the AFC North was slipping away, and nothing had gone smoothly all night. The one drive changed everything and reopened questions about how much football Rodgers still has left. For most of the night, the Steelers and Ravens had traded punches in a game that felt more like January football than a regular season finale. Baltimore came in knowing a win would knock Pittsburgh out of the division race. Pittsburgh knew a loss would turn months of grinding football into a wild card scramble. Every snap carried weight. Every mistake echoed louder than usual. Aaron Rodgers did not play a perfect game. He did not dominate from start to finish. What he did was something far more difficult. He survived chaos, settled a shaky offense, and delivered when nothing else mattered. From the opening drive, communication issues were obvious. Pittsburgh's offense struggled to find rhythm early. There were moments when routes broke down. There were moments when Rodgers and his receivers were not on the same page. At one point, a helmet communication issue forced the Steelers to burn timeouts at the worst possible moments. The crowd sensed the tension. The Ravens built momentum with a balanced attack that controlled the clock and forced Pittsburgh's defense to stay on the field longer than planned. Lamar Jackson kept plays alive with his legs, while short passes chipped away at the Steelers' secondary. The score stayed tight, but Baltimore felt like the team dictating the game. Rodgers responded the only way he knows how. He slowed everything down. Instead of forcing deep throws, he leaned on short completions. He used cadence to draw defenders offside. He changed protections at the line and trusted his experience. By halftime, the Steelers were still alive, still within reach, but nothing felt comfortable. By the time the fourth quarter arrived, the game had turned into a street fight. Pittsburgh's defense delivered a critical stop. Rodgers answered with a methodical drive that cut into the lead. Then Baltimore responded again. Each team refused to blink. With just over 2 minutes remaining, the Ravens held a 24-23 lead. Pittsburgh had the ball. This was the moment every quarterback waits for and fears at the same time. Rodgers jogged onto the field with a calm expression that has defined his career. There was no panic, no visible frustration, just focus. The drive began cautiously, a short completion to move the chains, a quick checkdown to avoid a sack. Rodgers read the coverage perfectly, understanding that Baltimore would rather give up small gains than allow a deep shot. He took what the defense offered without hesitation. Then came the pivotal third down. The Ravens brought pressure, collapsing the pocket faster than expected. Rodgers stepped up, slid right, and fired a strike into a tight window to Calvin Austin III. The ball arrived exactly where it needed to be. Momentum shifted instantly. The stadium erupted. As the Steelers crossed midfield, Baltimore's defense tightened. Every yard became a battle. Rodgers continued to control the tempo, bleeding seconds off the clock while keeping the drive alive. He knew time was just as important as field position. With under a minute remaining, Rodgers saw something he liked. Baltimore's coverage leaned inside. Austin slipped toward the corner. Rodgers did not hesitate. The throw traveled 26 yards through traffic and landed perfectly in Austin's hands in the end zone. Touchdown. The Steelers took a 26-24 lead. The sideline exploded. Teammates swarmed Rodgers. Coaches exhaled. But the game was not over. Baltimore still had one last chance. The Ravens moved into field goal range with seconds remaining. A 44-yard attempt stood between Pittsburgh and a division title. The stadium fell silent. The kick was snapped. The ball sailed wide. Missed. The Steelers had done it. Pittsburgh clinched the AFC North title and secured a playoff spot. For Aaron Rodgers, it marked his return to postseason football for the first time since the 2021-22 season. For the franchise, it validated a season filled with doubt, transition, and relentless pressure. Rodgers finished the night completing 31 of 47 passes for 294 yards and 1 touchdown. The stat line did not tell the full story. The leadership did. The control did. This win meant more than standings and seeding. It symbolized trust. Pittsburgh trusted Rodgers when things were messy. Rodgers trusted his receivers when timing was off. The coaching staff trusted experience over panic. Throughout the season, questions followed Rodgers everywhere. At 42 years old, many wondered how much he had left. Critics pointed to uneven performances earlier in the year. Analysts questioned whether Pittsburgh had made the right move bringing him in. This game answered all of that. Rodgers did not rely on athleticism. He relied on anticipation. He did not overpower the Ravens, he outthought them. When the moment demanded calm, he delivered it. The victory also reopened conversations about his future. Retirement rumors have followed Rodgers for years, but this performance poured fuel on speculation that his story is not finished. Reports suggest the Steelers are open to bringing him back in 2026. Rodgers himself has not closed the door. After the game, his comments reflected satisfaction, not finality. He spoke about enjoying the challenge. He praised the locker room. He acknowledged the difficulty of the season while emphasizing how much the win meant. The Steelers now turn their attention to the playoffs, where they will host the Houston Texans in the wildcard round. The matchup presents new challenges, but one thing is clear. Pittsburgh enters the postseason with belief. They believe in their quarterback. For Rodgers, the playoffs offer another opportunity to define his late career chapter. This is not about proving doubters wrong anymore. It is about extending a legacy that refuses to fade quietly. Years from now, this game will not be remembered for its early struggles or communication issues. It will be remembered for one drive, one throw, one calm presence under unbearable pressure. Aaron Rodgers did not just win a game against the Ravens. He reminded the league that experience still matters, that timing still matters, that when the lights are brightest, the old masters can still paint. And as the Steelers prepare for January football, one truth stands above everything else. When the season was on the line, Aaron Rodgers delivered. As the final seconds ticked away, the reaction inside the stadium said everything. Veteran linemen dropped to a knee in relief. Younger players looked stunned, fully realizing what they had just been part of. This was not supposed to be easy. Nothing about this season ever was. For the Steelers, this win validated months of belief inside the building that never fully showed on the outside. There were injuries, there were offensive growing pains. There were weeks where execution lagged behind expectation. Yet through it all, the team stayed connected, leaning heavily on Rodgers' steady presence. Teammates repeatedly spoke about how his voice never changed, even when drives stalled or mistakes piled up. In the huddle, his tone stayed measured. His instructions stayed clear. That calm became contagious, especially late in games when younger players might normally press or rush decisions. This was evident throughout the final drive. There was no frantic snapping of the ball, no forced throws into coverage. Every decision felt deliberate, as if Rodgers already knew how the drive would end. That sense of control is difficult to teach and nearly impossible to replace. It is why the Steelers trusted him with their season and why, when the moment arrived, they never doubted the outcome.